Welcome back. You're watching Global Eye. Let's now talk about the other war, the one between Russia and Ukraine that has been raging on for 25 months. In what comes as the latest act of provocation from Kremlin, a Russian missile landed 500 feet away from Ukrainian President Zelensky's motorcade in the Black Sea port city of Odessa. The attack comes as Zelenskyy was giving a tour of the war-ravaged city to Greece's Prime Minister. The Greek Prime Minister said it is one thing to hear about the war and quite another to experience it firsthand. No members of either the Greek or Ukrainian delegations were hurt. However, 5 locals lost their lives. Several global leaders, including EU Commission Chief von der Leyen, condemned the attack. Let me now go across to Major General Dhruv Katoch, Director General at the India Foundation and Director Emeritus at the Center for Land and Warfare Studies. Thank you very much, Major General Katoch, for joining us. Let me begin by asking you, what does this indicate about Russia's intentions? One thing is to carry out attack on Ukrainian forces, try and occupy land, take people hostage, but then trying to attack or carrying out an attack just 500 meters away from the convoy of the Ukrainian president, the Greece Prime Minister, who heads a NATO member nation. What does this indicate about Russia's larger intention?
Thank you, Parikshit. Parikshit, in my view, this particular attack was intended as a warning. You see, the fact is that they knew that the President Zelenskyy is there and the Greek Premier is there. Now, they could have taken them out, should they have so desired, but they didn't do that. So I would view this as a warning, and I think the warning is to President Zelenskyy that if he does not come to terms with the Kremlin as far as the end state of the war is concerned, then the Russians have the capacity to take Odessa. It'll take some time, but you see, there is a certain implication of taking Odessa. And that implication is this, that if the Russians take control of Odessa, then the Ukrainians are denied any access to the Black Sea. Now, this is the only way to the Black Sea which they have got now, the Ukrainians, is through Odessa. The rest of the areas, the entire coastal area, as far as the Black Sea is concerned, towards the east of Odessa, is already under Russian control. So if there has to be an end state, it is my view that Odessa is going to be a very critical pawn. And the terms will be that, okay, we will let you, from the Russian side, I mean, okay, we will let you keep Odessa, but the rest of the area we will take. And if you do not come to these terms, then we can take Odessa also. I think they're trying to set, in my view, I think this is one of the terms which will be set. Now, whether it will be acceptable to the Ukrainians or to NATO is a different issue. But as far as NATO is concerned, I do not give them the capacity or the capability to take back what has been captured so far by the Russians over the last 2 years. So what we are seeing there is a stalemate. There may be minor battles.
In terms of where this war is headed, we've seen 25 months of conflict going on in the Ukrainian region. This is Russia's war against Ukraine. What could be the next phase of operations or next set of intentions that Russia could work with?
You see, I think Russia is prepared for a ceasefire at this point of time, but on the existing lines. They are not going to, if there is any feeling in the West that, okay, a peace can only come if the Russians vacate the areas they have taken. I don't think that is going to happen, because then President Putin will be asked by his countrymen, you have fought 2 years just to give it back. So that is not going to happen. The Russians are not going to take it because President Putin's entire image is at stake. As far as Zelenskyy is concerned, I'm afraid he will have to accept the terms because Western aid cannot continue indefinitely. The pinch is already being felt in the NATO countries. There is a divided opinion as to how much aid or should aid be given at all. Now, countries like Poland are very keen to continue to support the war, but there are many other countries who do not feel the same way. So in my view, I think for this present 2024, perhaps the support will continue. But even with that support, they cannot retake the areas which they have lost. But without that support, I'm afraid they're going to lose the war and the peace will come on Russian terms. Now, this attack...
General Katoch?
Yes.
Yeah, coming back to this attack, General Katoch, the fact that they attacked or attacked a location very close to the convoy of the Ukrainian president. Does this indicate that all that speculation that was being made by the West in terms of Russia losing its capacity to attack, its war chest coming down or declining, do you think all that speculation is dismissed as a result of that attack? Russia has the ability to carry out this conflict. Recently, they also have dropped the threat of using nuclear weapons.
Very frankly, I think most Western analysts who are being fair about this war have made it very clear that the Russians have got the upper edge. Now, somebody may live in a world of delusion. That may be so. But the reports I have read from many Western analysts, including the American analysts, they have very clearly stated that as of now, the Russians have the upper edge. And, evicting them from the areas they have captured is really not on the cards. In fact, I have a feeling that beyond 2024, it'll be difficult for NATO to continue to support the war. And the war can only continue with NATO support in terms of financial and material support, which is why Zelenskyy is going around everywhere pleading for help. But this help cannot go on indefinitely. The Russians did very poorly in the first year of the war. That is granted. It was very poor generalship on their part and very wrong assessments they had made about what the reaction would be. The NATO support came in. Zelenskyy could mobilize his countrymen behind him. And now the war is in its third year. But it cannot go on indefinitely. I don't think Ukraine has the capacity. And I don't think the Americans have the capacity to, Americans and the rest of the NATO, to continue to support him. Also, I'm getting the feeling, though this is not confirmed, that within Ukraine, there's a body of opinion developing that it's not going to work out. You see, it is a very clear bet that,
right.
I mean, if you look at this war in a slightly different prism, it is really the Americans fighting the Russians using the Ukrainians. So it's a proxy war being fought. And I think the Ukrainians are beginning to realize...
That is an important point, General Katoch.
That whichever way the war goes, Ukraine is going to lose.
Yeah.
So they will have to settle on some terms.
And we have to see what also happens in the US election, because if President Trump goes to the White House, then things could be very different in terms of the way America views the war in Ukraine. We've completely run out of time, Major General Katoch, but thank you so much for joining us with those sharp views. An important conversation there on what's happening in Odessa, and we will continue watching the situation in Ukraine very, very closely. That's all we have time for. That's all we could pack in. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.